This is going to be a tutorial on how to fix broken stats in H2N. We're going to be using this technique with the Death Star HUD, although this can work with any H2N config where the stats have become broken. Let's see an example of some range research run with the Death Star HUD. Now we can see everything appears to be working correctly in the range research. When we have a look at some of these additional tabs, it becomes quite clear that some of the stats are broken. Now, of course, keep in mind that in some cases, when the stats don't appear, it could be due to lack of sample. So if most of the stats appear but a few of them don't, that might be an indication that we don't have enough hands in our database to have a sample on those specific stats. In this case, however, we're working with a large database, and what are the chances that an entire tab doesn't have any data on the vast majority of the stats? Not very likely. Something's clearly broken in this case. Now, while I by no means know for certain exactly what's causing this, my best guess is that H2N has somehow lost track of where these definitions are located. It's not supposed to do that. It seems to happen somewhat randomly, but that's my best guess at what's going on. If we just have a look at one of these blank stats, we can see that H2N is still fully aware of the stat definition. It's just not processing this particular stat when it's rebuilding the database. So we just need to jog H2N's memory regarding where this stat is located. The stat's still fully functional, but we just need to make sure that H2N takes a stat into account the next time it rebuilds the database. Now there are two ways of doing this. The first way is very simply just to uninstall everything. So just completely uninstall H2N, make sure the H2N directory is deleted, reinstall H2N from scratch, install the Death Star HUD from scratch or whichever HUD configuration you're using, and it should figure out how to process those missing stats. Now that method is the most straightforward. It's quite easy to execute, but it's probably a little bit extreme. We don't necessarily want to uninstall H2N unless we have to. So the second method is one that involves not uninstalling H2N, although it might be slightly more technical. So the way we can jog H2N's memory regarding the location of those stats is by reproducing them in the H2N pop-up editor. So here is the H2N pop-up editor, which we can access from the main screen by just going to the drop-down box in the top left, then going to pop-up editor. And we know that this particular output is broken on the fold to cbet in position pop-up. The fix works as follows. Copy any of the broken stats. Now the good news is we don't need to copy all of the stats individually. For example, we know that for the most part, this entire pop-up is not working, along with the vast majority of the tabs associated with this pop-up. So what we can simply do is select absolutely everything. Notice there's a highlighted box around the entire pop-up. Right-click, go to copy. Now if we scroll along to the end, notice I have this tab here entitled Fixer. This is especially for fixing those broken stats. If you don't have this because you're using a different config, you can simply add a new tab and call it Fixer. Any blank tab will do. The idea is we simply copy and paste the broken stats into this fixer. In fact, you can see I've left some notes here from before. H2N seems to randomly forget the path to some stats when installing/upgrading. If a certain tab has buggy stats, for example in range research, as we've seen, copy and paste the broken tabs either in this window or elsewhere, could be anywhere on the HUD, then clear rebuild stats. I'm just going to right click. I'm going to go to paste. I'm going to see the entire pop-up appear here with all of the associated tabs. The next time we clear and rebuild stats on the database, these stats will now be fixed. Just remember to click Save in the top right before moving on to the next step. So we go back to the main H2N window. We click on Clear Stats and Build Stats again. H2N will then repopulate the values of all of the stats based on the database, this time taking into account the missing stats. And remember, if you think this particular approach is too involved, feel free to just uninstall everything and reinstall the HUD from scratch. That way H2N will know where the stat definitions are located. Okay, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you know now how to deal with the issue of broken stats in H2N.